Morning, everyone. Just going to give it a few minutes to let people trickle in as we have a pretty large group today. But hope you are enjoying your morning on the East Coast or your very early morning on the West Coast, whatever time of day it is, wherever we are in the world today. Seems like our attendees are slowing down so we can get started. But hello, my name is Jasmine Williams. I'm the Associate Director of Global Network Pathways, working with the Boston cohort. So really great semester working with you guys and your students. But today we're going to start talking about the transition to London. So I'm joined by some of my colleagues here. First, we have Lori, who is our Alternative Pathways Coordinator, and Shannon, our Director of Global Network Pathways. We're going to be in the Q&A portion of the chat, answering any questions that you guys may have. But our special guest today is our London visa team. So we have Key and Faye over from London who are going to be really talking you through the process and all the intricacies of getting the visas. But as I said, they're going to go through their presentation. We'll have time at the end for question and answer. But if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A portion of the chat, and or Shannon and I can help out. All right, but I'll hand it over to our London team.
Sorry, just need to turn on my microphone. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. So my name is Chi, and I'm here with my colleague Faye. We are going to give you a brief introduction about the standard visitor visa for the for the global students. So you can visit the UK as a standard visitor visa for the study purpose on any program which is up to the 6 months. Some students will need to apply for a visa prior to the intended travel date to the UK, or some of the students will receive an electronic standard visitor visa whilst when you're crossing the border to the UK. So let me just hide this. So whether you need to apply ahead of your travel, or you will automatically granted a visitor visa at the border, these conditions are attached to your visa for the whole duration of your study while here in the UK. So you can study on a global scholar program, you can undertake tourist activities, of course, it has to be outside of the class time, and visit friends or families who is already in the UK. You cannot undertake any type of the employment, including paid, unpaid, volunteer work, etc., etc. And you cannot claim public funds, which is a common condition to all the visa holders. And also you cannot switch to any other type of the UK visa from within the UK. So who doesn't need to apply for a visa before traveling to the UK? So here is a part of the list which the nationalities which they don't need to apply for the visa ahead of this travel. This is just an example. For example, USA, UK citizens, Japanese, Hong Kongese, etc., etc., etc. And then next page, which we will show for the nationalities that who needs to apply ahead of their travel. I know it's a very long list, but please don't worry. As long as you just simply need to use your preferred search engine, and as long as you just simply search, do I need an UK visa? And then the first result should be gov.uk website, and it will lead you to a simple questionnaire. Once you give all the answers, and then the website will tell you whether you need to apply for the visa ahead of your travel, or you can just simply come to the UK and then you will be automatically granted an electronic visa. So it really depends on your nationalities. For the students who have dual nationalities, for example, let's say student A has USA nationality as well as a Chinese nationality. And then we would highly suggest the student to use the USA passport to enter the UK. For simple reason is that USA nationals doesn't apply to obtain a visa ahead of their travel. So this, so the next page is for the electronic travel authorization. So this only applies to a national of Qatar. You will need this ETA if you're traveling to the UK on or after the 15th of November 2023. You will be able to apply from the 25th of October 2023. You will need to apply on the UK ETA app or online on gov.uk website. You can apply on behalf of others, which will make the thing much easier. I have to say that this is a very fairly new thing, but we can already see the trend that the UK is trying to move to the electronic visa. However, please bear in mind that this electronic travel authorization is only for the national of Qatar at this very moment. So if let's say you are from Qatar and you need to get an ETA, you will get an email confirmation if your application is approved, and then we will link your ETA electronically to your passport you applied with. So that means that you must use the same passport to travel. You can find further information about ETA simply using your preferred search engine and to search electronic travel authorization. And then next, I'm going to pass to my colleague Faye for the rest of the presentation.
So check that you meet the eligibility requirements. So what you need to have is a valid passport to enter the UK. It should be valid during the duration of your program. You must be able to show that you will leave the UK at the end of your visit. You're able to support yourself and your dependents during your trip to the UK. You're able to pay for your return or any onward journeys. You will not live in the UK for an extended period of time. So that's the things you need to be able to show. Next slide, please. If you have to apply for a standard visitor visa, also known as SVV, before you travel to the UK, you must make your application online before you travel to the UK. A standard visitor visa costs £115 for up to 6 months. The earliest you can apply if you're a visa national student is 3 months before your travel to the UK. So, for example, if you plan to travel to the UK on the 8th of January, you can make your visa application on or after the 8th of October 2023. You must prove that you've been accepted onto a program which is accredited by a UK institution, and the program must not be no more than 6 months long. It's really important that students do remember not to apply for an academic visa. The type of visa you're supposed to apply for is a standard visitor visa. If students apply for the wrong type of visa, unfortunately, they would have to make another application and apply for the correct type of visa. So the documents and information you'd need to apply: you must have a valid passport for the whole duration of your stay in the UK. There must be a blank page in your passport for your standard visitor visa. You will need to provide the following information in your online application: the dates you're planning to travel to the UK, where you'll be staying during your visit in the UK, how much you think your trip will cost in the UK, your current home address and how long you've lived there, your parents' name and date of birth, if known, and how much you earn in a year if you have any income coming. Details of any criminal, civil, or immigration offences that you've committed, and your NU enrolment letter and NU London confirmation of participation letter. And I believe these letters can be found in the application status portal. Next page, please. Documents and information you would need to apply, still continue. So depending on your circumstances, You might also need to provide further information when you're making your SVV application. And this also includes like details of travel history for the past 10 years. So you must declare any sort of travel histories over the past 10 years. Your employer address and telephone number, your partner's name, date of birth, passport number, the name and address of anyone paying for your trip, and the name and address and passport number of any family members you have in the UK. Next, please. Proving your identity and providing documents. As part of the standard visitor visa online application, you'd need to book an appointment at a visa application center, and this allows time. You need to allow time to attend this appointment. As the visa application center could be in another country or in a different location. At your appointment, you would need to prove your identity with your passport or travel document, have your fingerprints and a photo taken, also known as biometric information, provide the required documents that show that you are eligible for an SVV visa. The visa application center may keep your passport and documents whilst processing your application. So it's important that you hand in your passport, and that if you have any holidays planned, you should take that into consideration. Next, please. How long does it take to get your visa or to get a decision? So once you've applied online and proved your identity and attended your biometric appointment and provided the relevant documents, it would normally take about 3 weeks. However, it's really important to start considering to apply early, just because Christmas time, UKVI, there may be minor delays if you're a visa national student. Due to Christmas and New Year's bank holiday, there will be slight closure. So obviously that will cause a minor delay during that time. So you can check if you can get a visa decision faster. So some countries may have a priority service, and this does come with an extra cost. So you would have to kind of look into that. You get an email or letter containing the decision of your application, and this will explain what you need to do next. And once you've received your visa, it's really important that you send a copy of your visa to the visa team via email to us, so that we can check that you've applied for the correct visa, so that we can, if you haven't applied for the correct visa, we can advise you what you need to do next. Next, please. So yeah, any questions for us? I'm just going to go through the Q&A and read out some of the questions. Okay, so the first question that we have: for a US citizen in Global Scholars, can your return plan ticket be later than when the program ends so that the student can travel? So students can only stay in the UK for less than 6 months. We do strongly advise that you have a return ticket, just in case that if a student is stopped by the immigration border at the UK airport, they're able to prove that they will leave the UK after 6 months, before 6 months. So just to be clear, are there any steps in this presentation that must be completed by a US student, by a student that has a US citizen with a US passport? So if a student has a US passport, they do not need to apply for a standard visitor visa. However, it is recommended that students bring the relevant documents that are stated in the guides. The guides are available on Northeastern University's website under Global Scholars Information. There are guides that the guides does contain documents that students should bring with them, just in case if they are stopped by the border officer. But in terms of applying for a visa for US national do not need to apply for a visa. They are automatically granted a 6-month entry upon entering the UK. So there's another question. If a US student wants to travel throughout Europe, can they do so without SVV? Unfortunately, this is not a question we'll be able to answer. You would have to check the relevant European immigration rules for that particular country, unfortunately. So this question is for you, Chi. What's the process for receiving the visa upon entering the UK for US student?
So for the US nationals, you will be automatically granted a electronic visitor visas upon your arrival. So you don't need to do anything specifically. You just need to use your passport and pass in the border control. US passport, you are able to use in the electronic gate. So you just need to fit your passport, then you should be fine. However, it really depends on the border control officers. You may be ask some simple questions, but again, the questions is not tricky. It's very straightforward. Mostly, they will just ask you, what are you doing? What are you gonna do here in the UK, etc., etc. And then you should have all the relevant information available to you. For example, that. And the annual enrollment letter, annual letter confirmation of participation letter, this should help you to answer the relevant questions if you have been asked once you cross the border.
So I think we have another student. Again, another question. Can a student travel within Europe during their stay in the UK?
So this, first of all, I strongly recommend you not to travel with your program for the whole duration of your program, because obviously we don't want you to miss any class, etc., etc. That's the first thing, and the second thing is that some of the students may think that, okay, can I just go to maybe France during the weekend? The thing is that if you keep, let's say, re-entering the UK, and then the border officer may question your purpose of your trip to the UK, whether you have genuine purpose of the study, because after the more frequent you travel, the higher chance you will be questioned, and then you will have the risk. And I mean, the worst scenario, you may be questioned and may have a negative impact on your UK immigration histories. So we would strongly stress all the students, all the global students, regardless your nationalities, do not travel to the Europe until you finish your program.
I think so. Someone asked, how do you show the intel on slide 8? Could we go back to slide 8? Slide 8, if you can just go back to slide 8.
Okay.
I think it's the one below that.
So this one.
Or maybe it's the one above.
Okay. So usually you will leave the UK at the end of your visit. Again, for all these terms which shown on this presentation, you should find the relevant information on the guide, which Faye was mentioning previously, that you can find all the guide, standard visitor visa guide on the NU official website under the Global Scholar Program. So basically, you will leave at the UK at the end of the visit. So usually, it will be a return flight ticket or the relevant ticket, just as long as you can make sure that the officer is certain that you will leave the UK before you exceed the 6 months allowance. And you will be able to support yourself and your dependent during your trip. And also you're able to pay your return and onward journey. So this financial related information you can also find on the guide. However, this unfortunately we cannot give you any like a specific number in terms for meet the financial requirement. This is because of the UK immigration restrictions. We are unable to provide you any tailored guidance and support. So this also is a good point to bring is that please know that this information, all the information provided during this presentation has been extracted from the United Kingdom visa and the immigration website. So we have, while we made every effort to ensure the accuracy and reliability of this information, we do not provide individual immigration advice related to the standard visitor visa or any other specific cases. If you think you need further immigration advice in regards to the student or visitor visa, we strongly recommend you that you seek for the professionals services of a qualified UK immigration solicitors or advice. So all in all, that for all the general informations which you see here, you should be able to see a extended information on the guide, which you will be able to find on NU website.
I think just seeing. So another question for you, Chi. The visa rules are changing 2024. Please clarify about students traveling throughout Europe during their time in the UK.
Like they mentioned before, we're unable to give you any travel advice to other European countries. It is strongly recommend you just go to the official government website of your destination, and then you should be able to find the relevant entry requirement, whether you need to apply a specific visa to enter that specific country or any other relevant information.
I think that's all from us. We're going to pass on to the team.
Apologies. Hi. Right. I still, just to clarify a few questions. Thank you. Would you just mind talking a little bit more about just traveling outside of the UK while they are in London? I know we touched on this briefly, but I see there are a few questions about it.
Yeah, sure. So if students have holidays within the time, like Easter, I believe April, there's a break, they can travel outside of the UK. So just if there's any holidays that are part of the semester break, then yeah, students can travel outside of the UK.
So they can go home for those 2 weeks for the semester break. And can you just talk a little bit more about traveling within the UK?
So that one, I'll pass that question on to Chi. But in terms of like if they have a spring break, I believe around Easter there is a holiday. Yeah, students can travel and go back to their home country. In terms of traveling within the UK, Chi?
Traveling within the UK, you mean like travel to Scotland or Wales or Northern Ireland? If so, then you don't need anything. You don't need to apply this because this is considering a whole country. After all, the United Kingdom. So this 3 countries, let's say England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, they will consider it as a whole country. So you don't need any special permit to travel because they will consider it as a domestic travel.
Amazing. So because they are under that 6-month
The
timeline.
United Kingdom, yeah.
I mean, as long as it doesn't affect their attendance, they have no scheduled classes, then obviously it shouldn't be an issue. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, because after all, the student came here for the purpose of the study. So we strongly recommend all the students to make a travel plan outside the class time.
Amazing. All right. Lori, I'm just going to ask that you put the London visa email and my email in the chat. If you have any follow-up questions regarding the visa, please feel free to email the visa team. If you have any follow-up questions regarding programmatic, please feel free to email me. Happy to assist, but I'll stay and answer a few more questions in the Q&A, but I think we are good for today. Thank you so much. I'm Jian Fei.